So Caliban's new augment just came out, and it is a really nice addition to his kit. But it doesn't really add much in the way of, it's not something that you would build his entire build around. Instead, it's just something that you can add onto any of his builds and, well, really benefit from it. So what does the augment actually do? So the augment is for his second ability, and it changes the way it functions. Normally, the way the second ability functions is it will summon these daggers to float around Kullervo briefly before quickly firing off to target enemies and giving him health and immediate overguard. He can quickly cast the ability, they'll fire off enemies, and keep casting it to give him more and more overguard. However, with the changes this augment made is instead of all the daggers firing off in a single go now, they will instead float around Kullervo and instead fire off and attack enemies one by one. And after they have done that, they will then come back to Kullervo and continuously fire off for the entirety of the ability's duration, basically turning it into a duration-based ability. This is really good for a number of reasons for his kit. First of all, it makes his survivability a lot more passive and less spammy on energy economy. Also, since the daggers do increase your combo counter whenever you hit an enemy, it does mean that you get passive combo counter as well, which is also really good. The augment does also mean the daggers do blast damage, but quite frankly, the blast damage doesn't really add much to the ability. It's pretty inconsequential. Like I said, this augment isn't really something you would mod for because it doesn't really change the way Kullervo plays or anything like that. It's simply just an augment that you can put on any of his currently existing builds and increase your survivability, making your gameplay a lot more passive. However, the augment probably isn't going to be that good when it comes to endurance missions. On anything outside of enemy levels, which will basically one-tap your overguard or one-tap you, it works really well because you'll be able to tank with your overguard and you'll get all the passive overguard regeneration you need to survive without ever worrying about it. But since you don't have control over how fast the daggers fire off, instead they just fire off passively, playing Kullervo without the augment will be better for endurance missions where you can't really overguard tank, instead you need to overguard gate. This is because the overguard gate is only 0.5 seconds and enemies can shoot you fast enough to actually break the overguard and deal damage to your health before the daggers have time to restore your overguard. While on low level missions this isn't really an issue because the daggers also heal you, on high level missions enemies will one-shot you when your overguard breaks and then you'll be dead. But without the augment you'll have a lot more control over how the ability activates, and you'll also be able to benefit from the extra 1 second of iframe the ability gives, so you'll get a 1.5 seconds of iframe instead of the 0.5 seconds. So the augment, Kullervo works better without the augment for endurance. However, that only applies to endurance. Anything outside of endurance, then using the augment is a massive buff to Kullervo's kit and makes it much better.